Morning. My name is Kelly Andrews Denny. I'm a teacher at Franklin High School. This is my 10th year. This is the intro video for Algebra 1-2. It should be noted that this is for students who are repeating algebra, not taking algebra for the first time. So if they are a sophomore, junior, or senior and do not yet have the Algebra 1 or Algebra 2 credit, that is who should be taking this class. So if you have that credit, you need to make sure to let me know so we can get you into the correct class. This is just a brief overview and introduction into the book that we're going to be using and what we're going to be covering and how the class is going to run. First thing you need to know is that tests in my class are worth 80% of your overall grade. What that means is that you cannot pass this class without passing the tests. It's important. The most important thing is that you have the skills you need to go on to geometry and Algebra 3-4. So, classwork/homework is worth 20%. And that 20% is important because, the most you can get is a B if you get absolutely perfect scores on all of your tests. But mostly the classwork is meant to help you improve your skills and make sure that you know what you're doing when you take the test. If you don't practice correctly, then you're not going to know it. One of the things that people often say is, I studied for this math test, and you don't really study for a math test. You practice, and you practice, and you practice until you know what's going on and you know what you're doing. Then you take the test. That brings me to the second part of how this class is generally going to run. During first semester, we are going to cover chapters 1 through 5. So we will have a chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 tests, and then a final exam. Each chapter test is worth 100 points. And the final exam is worth 200 points. In the second semester, we cover chapters 6, 7, 9, and 10. And then we have a final exam over second semester. So 100 points for each of those chapter tests and 200 points for the final exam. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of different things that can help you be successful in this class, but I want to say the most important thing you can do in order to be successful in this class is to come to class. I can't stress that enough. Being in class is the most important thing you can do for yourself, and in fact, a lot of people didn't pass the first time around because they stopped going to class for any number of reasons, whether it was a personal issue at home, something going on at school, personality clash with the teacher. There's a lot of different reasons that people do poorly in algebra that have absolutely nothing to do with math, and attendance is definitely one of those things. So the best thing that you can do for yourself is to come to class. The next thing you can do is to check out the book that we are going to be using for this class. This is Introductory Algebra. It's actually the PCC curriculum for Math 65. So I want to introduce you to a couple things in this book. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Oops, that's in. So this is the first section of Chapter 1. And I want to point out just a couple things. There's a lot of words in here, and it's not totally necessary to read all of those. But what we have in this section is an explanation about what these different parts of these expressions mean. This book is very good at explaining things step by step. It also has, unlike many of the course curriculums from Portland Public Schools, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of the examples are missing from those books. And we have, in this book, we have the advantage of having several different examples that students can work from. So we have practice problems and explanations, step by step, and why we do those steps to get you to the answer you're supposed to have. And then at the end of that section is a checkpoint. Do you know what you're doing? And the answers for that are towards the back. So there are several examples of the different concepts. Real-world problems, which we won't be focusing on as much as I would like to in this class, but we will focus on them a little bit. And then another thing also missing from a lot of the Portland Public curriculum is practice problems, a lot of practice problems. So I'll be assigning about 10 classwork problems a day and 10 homework problems. And I actually hesitate to say homework problems because I do want you to finish them in class. So the classwork/homework is actually more what is done as a class. So problems that we do as a class, examples that we do as a class, there will be about 10 of those problems, and then about 10 of the problems that you're expected to do on your own. I do recommend that you do more than that, and this will provide you with a lot of opportunities to practice. I know that may or may not be a realistic expectation, but if you are struggling and you need more practice, this is how you're going to do it. Focus on the odd problems if they're problems I have not assigned, because that way you can check your answers in the back of the book. Okay, back to the way that this class is going to run. In first semester, as I mentioned before, we're covering chapters 1 through 5, and then we'll have a final exam. Many students work at many different paces, and with attendance issues that we often have in this class, I want to make all the work accessible to everybody, and the main thing that I'm doing for that is to make these videos of the lessons for each day. Those videos will be made in advance, so students who maybe just didn't get the credit because they didn't go, but are perfectly capable of doing a lot of the work on their own, are free to move forward and take the tests as they are ready. So I am not going to force anybody to take any tests until they are ready. Notes are not going to be allowed except for those on IEPs, whose IEPs specify that notes are allowed. But the reviews that you have for each of these chapter tests and final have 4 to 6 reviews that look very, very similar to the test. So students will be well aware of what they're expected to know, and once they are clear on all those and ready to take those tests, then they will take those tests. So you have to move along this spectrum. The class will move along according to the calendar that will be posted on my website, but if you fall behind or you want to get ahead, you are free to do that. So the class will be scheduled to say take the first chapter test October 2nd, and I'm just making that up. I don't know what that date is. But if you're not ready to take it that day, then you will sit with a Chromebook and watch the videos getting through Chapter 1, and you'll work on those reviews until you're ready to take the Chapter 1 test. Now, the trap I don't want anybody to fall into is when we get to the end of the semester here and we're supposed to be taking the final, I don't want you stuck back here because you kept procrastinating. So please make sure that you're staying about where you're supposed to, but if you fall behind a little bit, then you fall behind, and that's what happens. There are ways to catch up, and it's really important that students take advantage of those opportunities. So I will not be allowing retakes on those tests unless there are some pretty severe circumstances. So students will need to complete an application to retake a test if they did poorly on one. The reason I'm not allowing retakes is because I'm also not forcing anybody to take the test until they are ready. So that is an important thing. So on the progress reports and on the report cards, what you will see is your grade for what you have done so far, and in the comments section, it will be noted how far you are along in the process that you're supposed to be. So if you are up to date, you are 100% caught up. If you are a couple weeks behind, you maybe say 80% caught up. So that's how that's going to work on your progress reports and your report cards. So that's kind of a brief overview of the class. I hope to help everybody the best that I can and do the best that they can do so that you can have some success in this math class. Please feel free to email me if you need any information at kandrews@pps.edu. algebra123.net. That's the best way to get a hold of me. And welcome to Algebra 1-2.